And my pleasure to introduce to you Bill Rutherford. And I just want you to get to know Bill and what he represents. His vision, his passion, and his experience is just what we need to move West Orange after a pre-COVID-19 environment. He has over 20 years of financial experience, and he's ready to bring that new eye, new vision to West Orange. Bill is also the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, a church in which I've been a member of for over 50 years. Bill has not been the pastor for over 50 years, just so that you know that. But he brought a resurgence into the church with working with the community, in that we do job fairs, we do food banks, we do whatever it is that we need to do to help the community. Just like Monica said, he's on his own. He's not working for any type of machine. He wants to do the good of the people. So what we're looking for here in West Orange, we're looking for new voices, a voice of the people, and a person who's not afraid to say exactly what it is that they feel that our city needs, or what we can do best, not just by politics, what we can really do best to move our city along. So it is my pleasure to work with Bill, to work with you, as we get fresh new voices here in West Orange. And I ask you to consider Bill, as well as Monica, as one of your votes. So without any further ado, here is my friend, my pastor, and one of the new city council members, with your help, Bill Rutherford.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Let me see if I can talk a little softer. This mic is really loud. Sorry for the feedback. We're going to have to try and work our way through it. It should be all right. It should be okay. Good afternoon. I'm so glad that all of you joined us today. I am Bill Rutherford. I am running for a seat on the town council. Thank you, Doc. He's a man of many talents. Let's turn the volume down a little. There we go. I am running for a seat on the town council. I want to take a moment just to introduce myself to you and kind of share a little bit about who I am. I want to start with my family. I am the proud father of 3 beautiful daughters. My wife is at home with them right now. My youngest just turned 8 this week, and she has a ice cream truck in front of the house with a bunch of friends, socially distanced, wearing masks as long as they're not eating ice cream, celebrating her 8th birthday. So if I were not here, I would be there. I spent my time with them after church this morning as long as I could before we came over. Now, we've raised our family here in West Orange, but that's not really where the roots begin. Many of you may remember in 1991, I believe, there was an incident on the Parkway where some young students from Morehouse University were pulled over by state troopers and ultimately killed. That started a significant backlash in New Jersey where people were crying out for justice. And what they wanted was a way to hold these cops accountable, but they also wanted to make sure that racial profiling came to an end. That fight led to West Orange being sued, I believe in 1991 or 92. And by 1996, that lawsuit was settled, and we were able to have the very first African American placed on the police force. I bring that up because that lawsuit was started by my father. He was the state president of the NAACP at that time. And so that is important to me because I want you to understand the roots of activism that come in my family. My father's father was an activist. My father is an activist. My mother is an activist, and so am I. And what does that really mean? It means that you have to say some things sometimes where people don't want to hear it. It means you have to stand on principle sometimes when it's not convenient. And I want you to know that as your next councilman, I will do that. I brought up my family. My family is the source of my strength, not just my children who inspire me to be the best dad and person that I can be, but also my parents who have left a legacy that I am expected to stand on, and I do stand on it proudly. So we've been here, my family's been here for 18 years, but the work began long before I moved into the St. Cloud section of West Orange. Now, Professionally, I've had 2 careers so far. I earned every one of these gray hairs. Before I got into banking, I had a nice afro. I was probably about 3 or 4 inches taller, but it wore me down over the years. I have worn some battle scars, but I spent over 20 years in banking, working for various companies, large and small, and 13 of those years were spent right here in West Orange running a registered investment advisory practice. Being an entrepreneur has taught me a whole lot, so has banking. And the one thing I want to bring out about that is when you're trying to get projects done in a bank, you have to work with people that have competing interests. Sometimes you have to work with parts of the bank that have competing interests. And you have to find a way to manage or navigate your way through that moment. That skill is valuable right here in West Orange. One of the challenges we have is getting people with competing interests to the table in a way that makes sense for everybody. What I've said to Monica and others, we won't always agree on everything, but we can find the places where we do agree and work on that. I think that kind of thinking and approach to business, an approach to listening to constituents is important in West Orange, where so many people feel like they've been left out. So after 20 plus years in banking, I called it quits. I haven't worked for a bank since 2016. Now in 2012, I was called to be the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. And so for those 4 years, I was working both jobs and trying to raise a young family. It took a toll on me physically, and I had to decide what I would do. I could not turn my back on my calling, and so I walked away from the bank and dedicated my time exclusively to being the pastor at Ebenezer. And at Ebenezer, we've done some work with the community that I am extremely proud of. As Dr. Harvest said, we have a food bank. This month, we've already taken in over 25,000 pounds of food, and by the end of next week, or this week, by Thursday, all of that will be gone. And we give that away for free. We've done job fairs. At our job fair every Friday night, we have a drug counselor on site. We've helped people get their HSC, which is a high school equivalency. We've started 2 nonprofits in town. One has been nationally recognized for their work in the anti-violence movement. And so many other things. One of the things that I am extremely proud of is last summer, we were able to help 3 students go study abroad. They needed the finances to pay for the trip. It was going to cost them about $12,000, and we stepped in, took the lead, and made sure that they went to Ireland. That was a life-changing trip for them, and that's the kind of work that I've done at Ebenezer. Now, why is that important to you? I've worked with some folks that have had quite a bit, and I've helped them get more. I've also worked with some people that have literally nothing and helped them get something. But the point about that is I am a helper. Maritza said in her introduction, when we met, she said she had a project and she needed some help. My nature is to help. If I can help, I do help. And it really doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, what you did yesterday, or what your political affiliation is, or who your crew is. It doesn't matter to me. If I can be helpful, I am helpful. And I think you should know that, because that's what this town needs, at least from my perspective. I've been here for 18 years. And many people have known, during the snowstorms, I go out in my car to help people get up and down the hills. That's the kind of spirit that we need to build community, where we are interested in each other's well-being. Now, last thing I'll say before I move on is what am I going to do with all of this should I be elected to the council? Well, I want you to know the first and foremost thing is we're going to get these property taxes under control. And I know you've heard that before. And I know there are plenty of people that think it can't be done. I'm here to tell you it can be done. We have both a short and a long-term plan for lowering property taxes in West Orange. It is possible. It does require people with competing interests to come to the table and negotiate in a way that makes sense for everybody. But that can be done, not just for my good, but for all of our good. And we can do that immediately by moving some folks from the private health plan that they have right now into the state health plan. But that's a short-term fix, and that will help, but it's not a sustainable long-term removal of the burden of the property taxes on residential property taxpayers. How do we get there? We've got to have smart development. The Main Street corridor is where I want to begin. We don't have a town center. Every other town around us has a town center. We go, at West Orange residents, we go to South Orange, to Maplewood, to Livingston, to Montclair, even to Milburn, and spend our money all year long. And they don't come over here and spend their money the way we go over there and spend ours. That is a problem that needs to be solved, and it's something that we can do right now. That Main Street corridor has a property adjacent to the Edison Museum. And yes, I know there's some competing interests there too, but I am not afraid to sit down and talk to people about how do we find the best way to move forward together. So my plan is to develop that Main Street corridor, 1.1 miles from Mount Pleasant Avenue all the way to Eagle Rock Avenue. And the first part of that will be branded around the Edison Museum. Edison is a treasure for West Orange, and we do not maximize how we use that branding. We should be the most technologically advanced suburb in the country. I don't mean in Essex County or even in New Jersey. This is the home of innovation. This is where high technology began before it was called high technology. So we should be leading the country in how we apply those kinds of principles to our smart development. So yes, we do need solar sidewalks and solar roadways and solar panels on rooftops. We do need green and sustainable development. But we also need attractions that are going to fuel the downtown businesses. You can't, the malls of yesterday are gone. COVID accelerated their death. We've got to think, what will the next 20 years be like? And how will we attract folks to our town over the next 20 years? So you need experiences to anchor your downtown sections. And when you have those, IMAX theaters or whatever the case may be, and I don't have all the answers, but I'm happy to talk to folks and listen to your input as well. But when you have those kind of experiences, when it's a safe and walkable environment where there are inviting downtown gathering spaces where neighbors can just sit without even spending money, but sit together and talk. When we stop trying to keep people out, but look for ways to make them feel welcome when they're here, then we can have the type of development that we need. Yes, it's going to take some money, and no, that's not going to be done with our capital budget or our operating budget. That has to be private development. But we can do it. I've got experience in those kind of projects throughout my 20 plus years, working in banking one way or another. I know these projects can get done. I know how to structure those projects, and I'm happy to lend my voice as we create a new downtown for West Orange. That will help lessen the burden on residential property taxpayers over the long haul. So some things we can do in the short term, some things are going to take a little bit more time. I'm happy to talk to you about all of them. I won't duck a single question. I want you to know what you see is what you get. I'm the same guy all the time, and those folks that have known me for any length of time will tell you, I don't bite my tongue. We don't always agree. I'm respectful in my disagreement, but I will certainly let you know where I stand, and I hope you do that for me. I'm asking for your vote because we need a strong voice with a new vision in town. I'm that guy for you, and you, and I hope tonight I can earn that from you. That's the end of it. I'm a preacher by trade, so I can talk all day, but I'm going to stop there. So I don't know what we're going to do next, Maritza, but should we open it up for question and answer?
Notice I have two masks, right?
Your mic is there.
So before we open.
Yeah.
I don't really need a mic. But
The speaker and the microphone.
before we open it up for questions, Dr. Akil Kalfani is the segue to how I met you, Monica. And he is actually now running for U.S. Congress. And I asked him if he was interested in saying a few words, and he is. And he just advised me that his campaign manager